Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. On our channel, you can find interviews, podcasts, and content on a whole variety of subjects. We have shows on mental health, football, films, TV, wrestling, music, conspiracy theories, serial killers, and more. Today's episode is the seventh in our series on conspiracy theories and is on one of the wildest conspiracy theories out there. It's time for us to talk about the Annunaki, David Icke, and the Reptillian conspiracy, as it were. So before we go down that wild hole, I'll introduce my co-host Rhys. Welcome, Rhys. Thanks for joining me again, mate.
Hello, Si. Good to be back again, mate.
Yeah, this is gonna be a wild one. It's not like any other conspiracy theory at all. It's like, I don't know. It's difficult to explain. It's so out there and wild, but
Yeah.
like the way David Icke like talks about it and stuff, it's just, he wraps it up in like historical fact, which makes it very difficult to. Obviously, it's so out there that not many people believe it, and it makes it really interesting. But because the way he describes it is so wrapped up in, you know, some historical facts and stuff, just makes it extra interesting to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I wouldn't call it a conspiracy theory, but the rest of the world who knows about it does, especially David Icke.
Yeah, but I think like with David Icke, the reason I would say it is conspiracy theory for him, or for people who believe it as well, is like he thinks people like the Queen and presidents and people like that, like shape-shifting lizards and stuff. He's he's really out there. Like,
The
but
thing is, there's other people who believe that they were the Nephilim, don't they?
yeah, fallen angels and stuff, and that.
The Nephilim were giants, they call them as such. They weren't human, they weren't animal, and they weren't alien, and they weren't angel. They were, I don't even know what they were.
They're like ancient like Sumerians and Babylonians.
Yeah, they're
Is
after
like
the
the way.
Sumerians and the Babylon. Well, the Nephilim weren't an era of people. They were just giants who they say, you know, when you see them programs where they find giant bones and all that crap.
Yeah.
Well, loads of them have been planted saying they're the Nephilim, which they were the Annunaki. Yeah, I think that's what it was, because they were deities original. That's what they thought.
Mm.
Or they were judges for the gods, I think. There was two main gods, and then 7 of them which were judges for the gods, I believe.
Yeah, it's a bit wild, isn't it?
I
It's
think
one
they
of
were
those.
created to decide the fate of humanity.
Yeah, but like David Icke, he does like lectures and stuff, and he gets like, you know, he fills up like Wembley, not like Wembley Stadium, but you know, like Wembley Arena and stuff like that.
He's got an
At the NEC,
immense following.
it's incredible, man, because like if say there was someone going around like Dr. Judy Wood or someone, or like that Rich D Hall or people like that who go around and they do these lectures. If they were doing lectures on like 9/11 or I don't know JFK or whatever it may be, I could understand thousands of people, hundreds of people going to watch them because they're so rooted in what's like real and fact and evidence and stuff like that. Whereas this is so like out there, like whether he's talking about like blood sacrifices or shape shifting aliens or lizards and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But like people go to it, and like I'm sure there's some of them who go to it, you know, like me and you would just find it really interesting and like bizarre.
I'd
Like
go to one. I would.
I don't know if I would. I probably would. Like if someone handed me a ticket and said, "Go and watch the, you know, go to David Icke in Cardiff or wherever," and they said, "Yeah, there's a ticket, go." I probably would go.
Right.
But
Hey, David Icke, if you're watching this, chuck us 2 comps for your next
yeah, there
show.
you
We'll
go.
do you a little review, mate.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Anyone who wants to send us complimentary tickets for anything, we'll review it. You know, doesn't have to be David Icke. Anyone. I quite
If it's
fancy going
VIP,
to.
we guarantee a good review as well.
Yeah, excellent. That's right. Get some sponsors soon enough. But then I listened to this podcast called The Weekly Planet. It's these two Australian dudes who talk about like movies and stuff, and they were on about like some of the sponsorships they've had, where they've had been like approached by like people promoting movies, and they were saying like they've done a few now, and they've been really lucky that the ones they've picked, the movies have been really good, so it looks good for them.
Yeah.
But like they said, he said he got approached by like a Mark Wahlberg film. I think it was something to do with like a bank heist or something, and he was like, he nearly did it because it's Mark Wahlberg. It's like this huge film, so it's a good look for your podcast sort of thing. And he didn't at the last minute, and it absolutely bombed. So yeah, anyone wants to send us free tickets, we'll review it. If they're VIP tickets, be a good review.
Yeah, if you've got an alien body we can come view or anything like that, we're all well up for it.
Absolutely. Conspiracy theories, if you've got evidence, we'll come and look at the aliens and stuff, isn't it? Alien bodies, shape-shifting lizards.
Definitely. I'm still adamant at least 2 of my exes were shapeshifters. At least 2.
My missus just pokes her head in. She was walking past the room, man. She was like, just give me a funny look as if like, the hell are you on about? Okay, right, come on. Serious now. Serious subject. Serious. So I forgot to do my little disclaimer thing, but I'll just do it quickly. So basically, like, we're going to talk about stuff. We talk about conspiracy theories. Doesn't mean we believe them. We just like talking about them. They're interesting. We're going to look at some of the views and evidence presented by the people who champion them. But yeah, you know, it's what it is. It's interesting. It's funny. It's good shit. So let's start with the Annunaki, I think it's pronounced. They're basically, the history of them is they're a group of deities that appear in mythological traditions, like you were saying, like the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, Azarians, Babylonians. Um, so they're like descriptions of them, big, huge, sort of giant things. In the earliest Sumerian writings about them, was like a post-Arcadian period, which I don't really know when that is. Like that's like before ancient Egypt, I think, and stuff. You know, it's thousands and thousands of years
I
ago.
Mesopotamian area. Is
Yeah,
it
I think.
Mesopotamian?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, they do say that they were involved in the building of the pyramid Gaza, I think. Giza, sorry.
It should make sense, wouldn't it? Like we talked about the pyramids before,
Yeah, I'm
about
sure they say they used the giants to build that one.
which to me, like that part of it, that makes sense to me because, like we said with the pyramids before, is that they didn't have the equipment and the tools and the
Yeah.
machines to build structures that big and line up the lights and all this sort of stuff. Whereas if they had like giant deities or like they're basically like aliens to what we know, that would make sense, wouldn't it, that they were able to build them.
The thing is, you look at the kind of way evolution has gone.
Mm,
There could well have been giants roaming this earth because you go back to the caveman times. The only thing a human needed to be was big, strong, and fast.
yeah, yeah.
So there could well have been quite a few giants bred. And
Well,
they used them. And the people back then, a giant to them, they probably would look at it as a god.
yeah, and I mean, going back to David Icke, one of his big, like his big theories and views is that these shape-shifting lizards, which have evolved from, they've evolved from the Annunaki over the years by breeding with humans, and that's how and basically they feed on. I think we discussed it before. They feed off the fear in the I can never bloody say it. The gland in the brain, which
Perennial gland.
yeah, that's the one, which like produces that's what's that stuff they smoke? DMT. But yeah, it's so like it is all like as soon as you get into it and like the different aspects of it, it does all seem to link back to the stuff that he says, which obviously is because he champions it all, doesn't he? But like, so the Annunaki are they're supposedly the most powerful deities in the pantheon. They were descendants of An and Ki, which was basically the gods of heaven and the goddess of earth. And their primary function was to decree over the fates of humanity. So to me, that sounds like they're basically sort of saying that they sort of started everything, and they were in charge of, ruling over humanity and stuff, which I know may upset like people who've got like a religious beliefs, maybe who believe God created the earth and all this, or whatever belief it is, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, whatever it may be. But a lot of people who believe in like evolution and stuff, this would fit in more into that line of sort of thinking, I think.
I don't know.
It's a weird one, isn't
it? They remind me of the Greek gods a bit. The way they look over humanity and decide our fate and things like that. That was the role of the Greek gods as well. So you can see it throughout history. People believe in groups of gods or groups of people more than they do a singular deity a lot of the time. And now it's kind of been narrowed down to a singular one. Back then, there was numerous gods for most religions other than Christianity.
Yeah, so like there's basically the Sumerian mother goddess, which is a name I cannot pronounce. It's Ninhursag. Okay, she had her oldest, sort of the oldest Annunaki was called Enlil, which was the god of air and the chief god of the Sumerian pantheon. Okay, so then the Sumerians believed that until Enlil was born, heaven and earth were inseparable. And then when Enlil cleared the heaven and earth into two separate entities, he carried away the earth. Well, his father carried away the sky, which is how heaven and earth became separate entities. Obviously, again, like we go back to all these different theories and stuff. There's no evidence for me or you to say, "Oh, this is what happened." I'm just saying what the general mythology behind it is.
And weren't they also something to do with the death planet Nibiru?
Yeah, I think so.
It's ringing a bell.
It does ring a bell.
I got a funny feeling that some people believe they come from that planet.
Yeah, and to me, like if it turned out that these these Sumerian deities and giants, if you like, turned out to be like extraterrestrials who began humanity thousands of years ago, and then religions evolved from over the years where different people believe different things from different parts of the world. But really, like I was just looking then to see if I could find it. I was reading this thing by one of David Icke's, someone who works on his website, I think it was, and does helps him with his books and stuff. And they were saying that they think that these deities and these different Nephilim or whatever, giants, whatever you want to call them, they basically all the people around the world in different areas, before you had things like airplanes and boats and whatever it may be to get from place to place. So they were all isolated from each other. They never, they didn't share ideas or views. So everything which has developed into God or Allah or all the different versions of the God who created everything is actually these beings, but it's just evolved over time from these beings into just like a general God created everything and Jesus Christ, or whatever. I was going to say bullshit you believe, but I can't say that. I'm not into it, but
you just did say it then. I heard you. I'm pretty sure anyone who listens to the podcast, they'll hear you say that then. Bullshit.
I might have to edit that out because
don't leave mine in though. Don't leave me hanging.
Yeah, just leave you in there saying bullshit. I'll cut out the bit where I said. But no, it's like, look, I personally don't believe in it. I'm not religious at all, but I do, everyone's entitled to believe what they want to believe and whatever helps them,
as long as you believe in something.
That's right. And me personally, I prefer just to try to live by like morals and like general right and wrong. But like maybe other people prefer to use their religion to help them do that, and that's fine for me as long as you're not using that religion to like push it on other people or to use it for wars and things like that. You crack on, believe what you want. Scientology, believe in some alien gods, whatever. Okay, just don't push it on me. But yeah, I'm gonna quickly get off that subject. But yeah, everyone who's listening, don't shout at me. Just is what it is. So the earliest known usages of the term Annunaki came from inscriptions written during the reign of Gudea. I might be pronouncing some of these wrong, which was 2001. Jesus Christ, 2144 to 2124 BC. So like you are talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago before, like Jesus Christ and the things in the Bible came into fruition, if you believe in those things. The earliest text, the term is like applied to the most powerful and important deities in the Sumerian sort of pantheon and the descendants of the sky god. And that's why I wouldn't say I believe it, but I do tend to kind of understand what that guy was saying about like how these beings, if they did do everything which is theorized, I could then see how religion sort of spanned off that around the globe into different, and it evolved over time. And, who's to say, what happened and what didn't happen. But like, if these beings were real and it did happen and there were these giant sort of extraterrestrials, if you like, who separated the earth and heaven and presided over humanity, then it would kind of make sense that it would then evolve into other stuff.
The way we're talking, I reckon within the next 15 years, there's bound to be a Marvel film out that shows how we were created.
You reckon?
Yeah. They're going down the Immortals route and everything like that. Something will slip in.
Yeah, people get angry then, don't they? You go on Twitter, mate, and you just start a little conversation about evolution or something like that. People go nuts for it. It's crazy.
Can't beat a good, healthy debate.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I don't mind discussing like religion and stuff and like people's different views on it. I used to work with a guy in the place where we used to work, and he was he was Christian, but he was like really strict Christian. And me and him both used to work late, and I used to like challenge his views all the time. We used to speak about it, and like he would try and make me into a Christian, but like it was done in like a respectful and like friendly way as well.
Yeah.
And we had like hundreds of debates and stuff about it. And unfortunately, like Twitter and social media is a bit of a breeding ground for people who just jump in with 2 feet and just don't. It's like they've got to be right or wrong. There's no like in between. Like you're entitled to your view. I think this, but what do you think about this? It's got to be like
the ultimate fact is though, no one actually knows.
Well, that's it, and then
Unless someone was there at that time, science can't prove what happened back then. No way. They can
yeah,
theorize about it, but nobody can prove what happened. So no one's ever going to know. It's a healthy argument, and I like listening to both sides. But suck it up, no one's ever going to know unless I fix my flux capacitator.
that's it, mate. If you can do that, we'll all be sorted. So let's move into like a bit of more of the sort of modern pseudo history, if you like. In 1976, there was a book called The 12th Planet, which was written by a Russian American guy called Zechariah Sitchin. So basically, he claimed that the Annunaki were actually a race of extraterrestrial beings from the undiscovered planet of Nibiru. You were right. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. I just couldn't remember where it was. So basically, they came to the Earth 500,000 years ago in order to mine gold. According to Sticher, the Annunaki genetically engineered like Homo sapiens or Homo erectus to create modern humans to work as their sort of slaves, basically, at that time. So if you think some of the pictures maybe in some books or some even some carvings maybe where you see like these giant guys overseeing humans pulling big blocks and building the pyramids.
Yeah, it's rife throughout Egyptian hieroglyphics.
And that's what I mean. It sort of kind of fits. So Stitching claimed that they were forced to leave the Earth when the Antarctic glaciers melted, causing the flood of Noah, which also destroyed the Anunnaki's bases on Earth. So these had to be rebuilt, and then the Nephilim, I cannot pronounce that. Nephilim, that's it. And the Nephilim, they needed more humans to help with the massive effort. So they taught human beings about agriculture. So like he seems to be saying in this book, I might actually read this book because it sounds like proper interesting. He seems to be saying that like the improvements in technology over the years is actually because of these people like teaching humans about them. So like agriculture, and then it says about the Anunnaki built the pyramids and all the other monumental structures from that world. The ancient astronaut theorists, consider impossible because of the highly advanced technologies that would have been needed. This Stitchin says in his book that the Anunnaki had left behind these human alien hybrids, some of whom may still be alive today and aware of their alien DNA or ancestry. So straight away, you can see just from like that brief like overview of this guy's book, both you can see you can see like the things linked to history, like like they were here, they used humans as slaves, then the flood of Noah came and everything changed, and then the Nephilim taught agriculture and helped them build the Anunnaki, helped them build pyramids and all these structures. Fits into history, fits into what people who don't believe that human beings built those things or just magically came up with how to do these things, and how they didn't suddenly know how to do agriculture. They were taught how to do it, how to build structures, so that it kind of all fits. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, totally.
And then straight away then, when he starts saying about the human-alien hybrids, which could still be alive today, don't know about their DNA or their ancestry, that goes into what David Icke, it's like that type of, it flows very well into each other. And I think, these guys, they've written books and stuff, so they're all, they've obviously researched it. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they've just made it up. They've obviously researched different things, different countries, all around the world to come up with these theories.
So what you're saying is they've researched stuff that other people have made up.
Yeah, probably.
That's just pure lazy. Make up your own stuff.
I know. Come up with your own bullshit like Scientology. Oh, Simon. Hell. Can't
I
stop
think
myself.
Scientology's great. Give me lots
Yeah,
of money.
yeah. And not, I don't know if I want them to sponsor us. So.
Haven't they
But
got to make a donation to become a Scientologist?
yeah, geez, they could. They can't even start on that. I might have to do a show on Scientology one day.
A religion podcast.
Fuck that. Fuck that.
We
You'd have
definitely
to
get
be a
some callers for that show, mate.
brave guy. Yeah, fucking hell. You have some people calling up for that. None of it would be very pleasant, I don't imagine
No,
either.
it'd definitely be after the watershed one.
So, so what it says is then, so that yeah, he says about like the human alien hybrids and stuff. Um, he later wrote more books and he expanded on the mythology. He wrote a book in 1980. So like these aren't even like modern theories, which he's like jumping on the back of like people like David Icke. You know, he was like David Icke. I think went on the Terry Wogan show and declared himself the son of God in like the early 80s, and like that was like 6-7 years after this. So I mean, after this guy's first book was 1976, yeah. So it's like a good, 4, 5, 6 years. He wrote another book, Stairway to Heaven, 1980, and then he wrote another one in 1985 called The Wars of God and Men. In End of Days, Armageddon, and The Prophecy of the Return, which he wrote in 2007, he predicted that the Annunaki would return to Earth possibly as soon as 2012, corresponding to the end of the Mesoamerican long count calendar. I don't know what that
It's the
is.
movie 2012.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's another big belief that they're coming. They're coming to end the Earth 2022.
Yeah, it could be because it's all twos, isn't it? But
Yeah,
there's like people like the satanic stuff, like Illuminati type people. They believe in like all numerology and stuff, don't they? So I'm sure all the twos would be like a big thing, like a big what's the word? Like a big meaning. They would have a big meaning behind it in some form, I'm sure.
yeah. To be
Like
honest, Alien Invasion. Now, after watching the Three Men in Black films, I'm not that bothered now.
do you know what though, mate? Do you know what I think about that? Is I think like people say like the government's just they do fake terror and they do fake this and they fake that. It'd be easy for them to fake an alien invasion. Easy, mate.
Oh God, they can fake anything they wanted to nowadays with the technology we got.
Holograms in the air for like spaceships and stuff, or
Yeah,
even some of the secret secret planes and spaceships they've got. They could use them easy peasy, mate, and they could freak out the whole world and get under that one world government in 24 hours.
yeah,
Easy.
definitely.
So let's go a bit into this stitching again now. So his writings, obviously, as you would expect, I guess, because of the nature of his writings, have been universally rejected by the mainstream historians. Labeled his books as pseudo history, pointing out that they say he misrepresents Sumerian texts by quoting them out of context or mistranslating some words. However, my argument to that is that Sumerian is such an old language that it's very difficult to translate anyway.
Yeah,
So I think because of its age, there's an argument to be said that one person could interpret it slightly different to someone else.
well, you look at just the basic context of normal languages, like the English language. You go different to different areas of the UK, the same word will mean different things.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so how can somebody say, "Oh, that word means this"? It could mean several different things. They don't know. You know, we're using the languages now that apparently derived from that language because isn't it the earliest form of language?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He
So how can they use that argument when we're still doing it to this day? I mean, look at the English language. Just pick the stupid words like where. Where is that? I'm going to wear this.
Oh yeah, exactly. How many of those words sound the same, nearly spelt the same, but mean something different?
Totally different. So
It's a difficult argument. I'm not saying that I believe what he's saying to be completely correct or anything like that,
no, but
but
it's a possibility.
yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously in a minute we're going to get into the really wild shit, which I'm less inclined to get on board with. But at the like up to the point where we're at now, I'm kind of like, yeah, I can believe that as much as I can believe about the Son of God and a miraculously pregnant lady. You know,
Yeah,
some woman just appeared. I can believe that. Why is one more realistic than the other?
totally.
It's not. But that's not to say either or is correct. Maybe neither. So obviously, because probably a lot because of the time that he wrote these books, he did escape the notice of debunkers a lot. Because obviously now, if he came out with these ideas like where no one else had, I think people would be on him on YouTube and Twitter and social media saying, they're trying to debunk each point.
Yeah,
But because at
they'd
the
rip the
time in
new.
the 80s, there wasn't internet and stuff, and he probably largely got ignored other than his sort of hardcore following and people who wanted to just read up on, like Sumerian and um, like, mythical history and stuff like that, which people, that's a really popular thing for historians, isn't it? Like Egyptian history and Greek history and all these different contexts of like gods and Nephilim and Annunaki and all the different things, the pyramids. People love all that, especially historians. Away from conspiracy theories, they love like trying to piece together the history of the world, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, and but
So,
the genius of it is because nobody will ever know. As long as you can bring out a theory that ties in with it, it could be believable.
yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? They're so tied into stuff which is historically proven, and then it's like tied into like mythological stuff that is highly theorized.
Yeah,
It all falls into place quite well. And then, like I said, with the technology and everything, it kind of makes sense the way he went through, or he says that he went through. Um, so in let me see, in a book published in 1994, conspiracy theorist Arthur Horn proposed that they were actually reptilians, these Anunnaki. So he sort of moved away from the type of sort of gods, if you like, the deities, and was saying that no, these are like reptilian type of alien sort of creatures. And then obviously that's when we get towards British conspiracy theorist David Icke further expanded on this thesis by claiming that the surviving alien bloodlines mentioned by Sticher were the Brotherhood of Babylon, a race of shape-shifting reptilian aliens who secretly control all the governments of the world and keep humans enslaved, using the Illuminati and others as their figurative chess pieces. And this, this is where it gets wild, isn't it? But you can see how they've almost latched on to the ideas behind like that David Sticher straight away, just from that paragraph where it's saying like they've jumped on that bit about there could be human alien hybrids, because what that guy said was that they're just hybrids who've basically got like alien genes or bloodline or ancestry. He's not saying they're like shape-shifting aliens. He's just saying where they crossbreeded, there could still be traces in around the world, but people wouldn't know about it. Whereas then David Icke and that British, the other guy, I think his name was something Horn, Arthur Horn, have taken it like a step further, and David Icke thinks it's the was it Brotherhood of Babylon. It's a good name. Give him that.
that is a cool name.
The Brotherhood of Babylon, strike you down. Sounds epic. So David Icke, he is. If you listen to his views, some of it, like he was calling out Jimmy Savile, and British politicians for their paedophilia and like sexual abuse of children and satanic ceremonies. He was calling them out in the 80s. So like, unfortunately, I think his reptilian theories and shape-shifting aliens are so far out there that it actually takes away from some of the good stuff that he's done over the years with other conspiracy theories like the politicians and Jimmy Savile. He did some good work with 9/11 at the start, sort of trying to get it out there, maybe that it wasn't quite as clear-cut as perhaps people were led to believe. So he's accused many high-profile British figures being involved in like sexual abuse of children and satanic ceremonies. He in the late 80s, he said Jimmy Savile was the most prolific child molester in British history, and you cannot argue with that. He was spot on.
Yeah. There must have been thousands of people who knew about what was going on in them days, but you didn't have social media.
No, but I mean, neither did they. He didn't have it either, and he still said it.
I mean, all the other people were probably too scared to come out and talk.
Yeah.
He was
Have you ever seen ever seen the interview with Johnny Rotten on? I think it might. I'm not sure if it was Terry Wogan or it was like something like that. And he basically he like alludes to Savile, but he says, "Oh, we're not allowed to talk about that, are we?" On the BBC, and then literally he was banned. Sex Pistols were banned from BBC Radio and stuff around that time as well. So the people, the BBC knew. People within the BBC then knew what was going on. They knew the score. People who were around him and knew him, they knew the score. And like, you can't be denied that Jimmy Savile had heavy links to, politicians and the royal family. So you can't tell me that the security surrounding them, those people, they know everyone who those politicians are coming into contact with, and that's why the security services always blackmail these high up politicians, because they catch them doing things they shouldn't, and instead of taking them down, they use it to control them and get them to do, go in their direction or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But that's a bit of another story. So so David Icke, he's done some really crazy shit over the years. For a few years, he only wore turquoise, literally, just would only wear turquoise because, and he insisted on being called the Son of Godhead. That's what I mean. He's so wild, mate. And I do think it's unfortunate in many ways because he's done some good stuff in between, but it's difficult to get on board with some of that stuff at the time because,
I mean, come on. If someone calls himself the Son of Godhead, that's up there with Taserface.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, mate, isn't it? So he says that the Annunaki, the reptiles, have controlled humankind since the ancient times. He says that counted among them are the Queen Elizabeth, George W. Bush, Henry Kissinger, Bill and Hillary Clinton, Bob Hope. He claims that the lizards are behind secret societies like the Freemasons and the Illuminati and stuff like this. He earned the dubious title of being the most paranoid man of the decade in the late 1990s. And he's written several books, which some of them are like best-selling books.
The thing is, he was famous before he did this, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a footballer.
He was a known name.
And he was a footballer, and then he was a radio host. So, he knew.
Imagine if someone like... You imagine if Ronaldo came out now with all this conspiracy stuff and all these things. Imagine the following he'd have.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah. So...
It's because of him being the football, but they don't believe that.
His website, there's incredible numbers, millions and millions. He's written hundreds. Like, I wouldn't even hazard a guess how many books he's written. He sells merchandise and advertising on his website and stuff. You know, he does very, very well out of his conspiracy theories, let's say. He released a book in 1990, which was called The Biggest Secret, which this is the only part of the sort of lizardy reptilian type stuff, which I kind of like can understand, or not understand, but like I can see like a way that it could be true, if you like. So he basically added that he said the final layer on top of the pyramid conspiracy, the pyramids are interdimensional, shape-shifting lizard people, and they use the pyramids for a rift through the space-time continuum near a constellation in Draco, which is often they're often referred to as reptilians or reptoids, which partially comes off the work of Zachariah Sticher, which we discussed earlier. He claims that the aliens are Annunaki and that they have interbred with humans throughout history. Much of the evidence, in inverted commas, of reptoids, Icke's worshippers put forth pictures of world leaders with enlarged pupils, red eye, or like you see them on YouTube, don't you? Like their eyelids seem to go sort of sideways rather than down, as if they're like their shape shifting ability is like slipping for a second. And if you type in reptilian proof on YouTube, you get hundreds of those of all sorts of people. I tend to think that if that was the case, it would be on something else other than YouTube. But then, with how I feel about mainstream media and stuff like that, maybe it wouldn't, and maybe I'm just being a bit of a hypocrite on that front. Who knows?
I'm one of them that if there was that much of it going on, a lot more of the world would know. But like you say, with media, even with YouTube, they know the videos that are put up.
Yeah, they could take them down in instant, can't you? I had a video taken down before I uploaded it, and it was taken down for copyright before I even got, like, the second I uploaded it, I had an email saying you can't use this clip. So like they're perfectly capable of taking stuff down if they want to.
They're also perfectly capable of putting up any videos they want to as well.
Oh, absolutely. Jesus, you think how they control media and advertising and this sort of stuff? Like, if you wanted to control stuff like that now, YouTube is the place to do it with adverts and clips and videos.
Look at Facebook now. You see so many people saying, "Look, I was talking about this project earlier, and it's popped up on my Facebook."
Oh, it does my head in. It like freaks me out because you don't even need to type it in anymore. Like,
no, that's what I mean. People are saying they're just talking about it, and then it's popping up.
Well, it used to be like if you Googled stuff, like say you were Googling, like if I was Googling like a new camera, and then I'd go on like Facebook or another website, and the adverts would be for the stuff I Googled.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that the cookies and the bots they use, but when people are just talking about it,
boom, it's freaky, man. I've had it happen several times.
It's crazy.
That's why whenever you go, you first get your phone, and you go on Facebook or Twitter or like Google Chrome, whatever browser, it says that you've got to give permissions, and that's when you're giving them permissions. You switch on your mic and stuff if you read the small print.
Yeah. But you can't have these apps without giving them the permission and things, so everyone gives them the permission.
Yeah, and very few people read the small print of these things because they just want to get on with it. They want to get into their Facebook page, or they want to get into the app or watch the film, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we're going to try and keep it to around an hour. We're going about 40 minutes now, but we're all right for time for a minute. So yeah, David Icke believes that these things are real. He reasonable speculation about the source of his space lizard theory may point to 1970s British progressive rock album Lizard Wikipedias by King Crimson Wikipedia W. The album features metaphorical references to lizards as politicians, religious enemies of Prince Rupert in the song Lizard, and ironically, King Crimson's lizard seemed to honor the Sabbath, promise Eden, and have a sacred tablet. So basically, this band and this album, the guy who wrote the songs says that it's just like metaphorical. Politicians are lizards and slimy and blah blah blah, but David Icke seems to say that no, they know something and they're putting it out as so many conspiracy theories. You know, whatever conspiracy theory is, it's quite common that the people who champion them are saying, you know, they put this out in a movie or they put this out on the music video because they're kind of like rubbing it in your face almost.
Yeah. And they say, you know, subliminal messaging and things like that. People are trying to tell us the truth. And
yeah, oh, absolutely. And I mean, one of David Icke's books is, I can't remember what it's called, something about the Matrix. And it's basically, like I'm paraphrasing massively, because obviously it's a whole book, but it's basically saying that the Matrix, the film, is quite similar to the truth in that we're not, you know, it's not like a reality, it's like an augmented reality or whatever, or like a hologram or whatever, you know, whichever way you want to describe it, which is, again, is another wild theory. But I mean, you know, who's to say? There's no proof of anything.
that's the thing.
So a quick list of some of the people who David Icke believes to be like the top shapeshifters, I guess you'd say. The late Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mother, was apparently one of the highest satanic witches in Europe. The Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, well, you know, they're like, you know, they feature in every show, mate, I think.
Yeah.
Medieval French dynasty. And some of these, like especially the older ones, he bases around what he says is, you know, facts and evidence, because obviously with people like the Queen and the people who were, you know, alive up until recently, he's more basing that, I think, on his beliefs,
Yeah.
rather than he's trying to fit that into his beliefs, rather than the older ones. I think he's looked into a bit more and tried to pick out the ones that he thinks fall into his beliefs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Various Egyptian pharaohs, basically every royal dynasty ever. Politicians, Dick Cheney, I can believe that just because of what he's like. George Bush, yeah, I could kind of see that too, to be honest. George Bush Senior, Jeb Bush, all the Bushes, by the looks of it.
Boris Johnson got to be on there. He's like halfway between the change. I think he just got stuck.
Yeah. I don't know if he's on this list. You got the Clintons, Al Gore, Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Richard Nixon, John F. Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, Kissinger, Roosevelt, Ted Heath, Winston Churchill, Tony Blair. Tony Blair, I can believe. He is an evil man. And yeah, he is an evil man. And there's a few conspiracy theories which I want to discuss, but I'm not going to discuss them now because I don't think you're going to want to discuss them, and I'm not 100% sure I want to discuss them in public either.
Do you mean about Tony Blair and things?
Yeah, some stuff about him, and like even like Madeleine McCann. I'm like, I really want to talk about that because I've watched that documentary, which I so amazing, and it's like 8 hours of just pure evidence and facts. And
it is, but again,
really
it's one of them. Someone could bring out another documentary with all their own evidence and facts that goes totally against it. It's the way it's put across.
It's based on like blood evidence and cadaver dogs and stuff. So it's like it's very difficult to like go against that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing saying, "Oh, I spoke to this witness and they said they saw something," but then this witness says they saw something different, and them going with the witness which fits in the direction they want to go. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas, you can't argue with things like DNA and stuff. But yeah, so I really want to do a show on that, but I'm reluctant to, because it is a little girl who's still missing.
Yeah.
Even though, I don't think I'd get any like crap off people, because most people I speak to think that they're fully, even if they didn't do what I think they did, most people believe that they should have been punished, because let's face it, mate, if I went on holiday and went out with my missus for a meal and left my kids in bed who were like 2 and 4 or whatever it was, and I left them and one of them got taken, I'd be chucked in jail, mate.
Oh, totally.
I wouldn't have the people like Clarence Mitchell and Tony Blair come and sending people across to get in the way of the Portuguese police and stuff. Was it you who was saying, I don't know if it was you or if it was something I watched, so in Portugal, every 10 years, when like cases are closed, or every 10 years, the police files become public. So you can anyone can just go to the library and go and look. So then that means that the level of policing is better, because it's under proper scrutiny from independent people.
Yeah.
And supposedly that's why they they sent those people over, like Clarence Mitchell and stuff, to block the Portuguese police, because they'd made them official Guidos and suspects. Yeah, it's an interesting one. We've gone way off topic. That's my fault. Sorry, mate. Tony Blair, he gets me every time. But yeah, so there's a few conspiracies which I'm on the edge of whether I want to talk about them, and even stuff like I watched. I've watched the thing and read a book about the 7/7 bombings, and there's some dodgy shit around that. But then again, I'm like reluctant, because, right, the way I look at it is, I think there's some terror things which have happened over the past few years, which I think are bullshit, and they didn't happen the way people say. And I think that in certain cases, people didn't die and people weren't hurt. But I think in the 7/7 bombings, whilst I don't believe the official story, real people did die.
Yeah.
So like, I'm kind of like, I'm in an R in and stuff, so I'm gonna see. Maybe I'll leave it down to people and what they think. But it's interesting to talk about, and I think even if it does involve, a lot of them involve real people, and as long as you're not like disrespectful to those people, I just think it should be okay. It should be okay. It should be okay to talk about stuff. You know what I mean?
It's only our opinions.
Yeah, and half time it's not even our opinions. We're just reading the opinions and things that other people think, and then we're just discussing those. So it's like, obviously I've given a few opinions, loose opinions today on religion and stuff, but I mean, I wouldn't say that I was like really offensive. I just said I don't believe in it, but I fully respect that.
That's absolutely fine, though. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion there. You're not, like you say, you're not being derogatory. You're not hurting anyone else. It's your opinion. You have that.
I think that gets lost though on people these days sometimes, doesn't it? Like, it's okay to have different belief or a different view to other people without everyone having to get all like offended and stuff. Oh my God, I can't believe you think 9/11 was not like an inside job, or I can't believe that you think, Madeleine McCann wasn't taken by some mystery abductor and just disappeared into thin air. Like, it's okay to question stuff, and it's okay to not believe what
that's how we progress in life. We have to question things.
Oh yeah, definitely. And do you know what I pride myself on is that every time I've ever looked into any conspiracy theory, I'll always go into it with like not a view one way or the other. but usually by the end of watching numerous documentaries and reading up on it, I'm leaning to one side. But
I've always got a view on it because you build one
yeah,
straight away. But I'm always open for my mind to be changed if evidence is put in front of me. I'm not set in my way that, that's how it happened, I'll stick with that. And if evidence put my way, I just brush it aside.
yeah, absolutely. You should be allowed to talk about anything as long as you do it in a respectful way. If it involves real people or real issues or whatever it may be, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to question stuff, and it's okay to be like, hang on a minute, that doesn't make sense what the newspapers and the news have told me. So I want to know a little bit more about it without people going, oh, I can't believe that you're disrespecting like the people who've died of this terror incident or whatever, whatever it may be. And it's like, no, that doesn't make sense to me. So I want to know why it doesn't make sense.
You can't argue the facts of a case on hearsay, which is what 90% of people do.
Oh God, yeah. Fucking hell, yeah. So like, all right, last thing on the Annunaki and the lizard sort of stuff. What are we saying? Which way are we leaning?
I I believe there's extraterrestrials out there somewhere or a higher form of intelligence. There's got to be something that guides us along, especially with all the technological advances we've had, etc., etc. Like, since the beginning of time, learning about farming, how to make fire, all the simple things. Somebody has pointed us in the right direction with these. Whether it's giants, lizards, shapeshifters, I have no idea, mate. But there is definitely something. So I'm open to this one.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm open to that. I should I say I kind of understand and I can kind of see the first part of the stuff we talked about like the ancient deities and the technological advancements throughout time, and them being behind the pyramids and them being behind the birth of humanity and maybe even the separating of heaven and earth, maybe. But I can't, like the sort of shape shifting lizard things is where it gets a bit like, okay. But if there's aliens in this huge universe that we live in, if there's aliens and there's whatever else, and there's a devil and there's a god, why can't there be shape shifting aliens?
Totally.
And on that note, we will leave it there. I've been Simon. That was Rhys. You can find Rhys on Twitter at Shore Celtic. You can find me on Twitter at acecast_nation. Even if you want to send me some abuse for my views, that's okay. I'm always up for a debate and a discussion. But yeah, give us a subscription on YouTube. We have a lot of fun with these conspiracy theory shows. We got new serial killer show coming up soon. Well, actually, we're filming this Monday.
Friday.
What day are we today? Monday. But this is coming out Friday. So by the time this comes out, Serial Killers episode 1 will already be out. I did a show with Fightful.com's Andrew Johnson, which came out last Monday. Two ex-Premier League footballers the week before. There's like 30 odd shows of different subjects and different people, all of them fun and interesting in their own ways. So please jump on board, join the nearly 6,000 people on Facebook, come say hi, subscribe YouTube, see us on iTunes, Stitcher, all that good shit. Anything to add, Rhys?
Yeah, somebody get us on one of David Icke's shows.
Yeah, send us tickets to stuff, to freaky stuff, and we'll go watch it and review it.
Yeah, well, anything.
Yeah, go watch it and then review it.
Alien autopsy, UFO sightings, we're down for the lot.
Yeah, David Icke lecture, whatever it may be.
Somebody wants to send us to Egypt, we'll have a good look around the pyramids.
Yeah, we'll do whatever, mate. Up for anything. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to our ramblings. And Join us again next time for conspiracy theories. See you soon. Nice one, guys.
Cheers, folks.